Hitler is born on April 20, 1889 in Braunau am Inn in the Empire of Austria-Hungary. His parents' families are both of poor peasant backgrounds. His father, Alois, regarded as strict and distant, becomes a customs official and expects Adolf to follow a career into the civil service. Hitler's mother, Clara, is of a more compassionate nature, adoring and indulging her son. At the age of 6 Adolf attends school and, while clearly intelligent, he is uninterested in formal education, eventually leaving with a poor educational record of achievement. The death of his father when Adolf was 13, releases the pressure on him to get a job working for the civil service. Adolf is able to pursue his preferred choice of study, that of art. He attends art school and regards himself as an artist, absorbing diverse cultural influences, the opera, theater, reading and drawing. Clara Hitler dies of cancer. The loss of his mother affects Hitler deeply and it is said that he has a photo of her in his pocket when he dies. At the age of 17, Hitler moves to Vienna, the capital of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. He plans to attend art school there, but when he is rejected by the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts for the second time in October, he gives up on his dream. After ignoring his army orders in 1909 because of his hate for Austria and later being rejected by the Austrian army for being too weak, Hitler volunteers for Germany. Hitler is blinded by mustard gas. While fighting the British, Hitler is blinded by a mustard gas attack. He regains his sight, but while he is recovering he is deeply depressed and spends much of his time crying. Hitler wins an election and becomes the leader of new political party, nicknamed Nazi. The party's official name is National Socialist German Workers' Party and it believes that equality is only for Germans, not Jews or immigrants. The Nazis unsuccessfully try to take over the German government and Hitler is sentenced to prison for 5 years for treason. While there, he dictates his autobiography and book of political ideas. The Nazis, led by Hitler, begin to systematically eliminate Jews from Eastern Europe. At least 6 million Jews will be killed, many in brutal concentration camps. Concentration camps are often inaccurately compared to a prison in modern society. But concentration camps, unlike prisons, were independent of any judicial review. Between 1933 and 1945, Nazi Germany and its allies established more than 44,000 camps and other incarceration sites, including ghettos. The perpetrators used these sites for a range of purposes, including forced labor, detention of people thought to be enemies of the state, and for mass murder. Hitler becomes Germany's dictator. After being named Chancellor of Germany in 1933, a presidential election is held in 1934 that Hitler easily wins, partially because he vows to fight communism. He is now firmly in power as dictator of Germany with the title of Führer. From 1933 until the start of the war in 1939, Hitler and his Nazi regime instituted hundreds of laws and regulations to restrict and exclude Jews in society. These anti-Semitic laws were issued throughout all levels of government, making good on the Nazis' pledge to persecute Jews. Additional legislation restricted the number of Jewish students at schools and universities, limited Jews working in medical and legal professions, and revoked the licenses of Jewish tax consultants. By 1934, Jewish actors were forbidden from performing in film or in the theater. Hitler's eugenic policies also targeted children with physical and developmental disabilities, later authorizing a euthanasia program for disabled adults. His regime also persecuted homosexuals, arresting an estimated 100,000 men from 1933 to 1945, some of whom were imprisoned or sent to concentration camps. At the camps, gay prisoners were forced to wear pink triangles to identify their homosexuality, which Nazis considered a crime and a disease. On September 1, 1939, Germany invaded Poland, sparking the beginning of World War II. In response, Britain and France declared war on Germany 2 days later. In 1940 Hitler escalated his military activities, invading Norway, Denmark, France, Luxembourg, the Netherlands and Belgium. By July, Hitler ordered bombing raids on the United Kingdom, with the goal of invasion.
On December 7, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor in Hawaii.
Honoring the alliance with Japan, Hitler was now at war against the Allied powers, a coalition that included Britain, the world's largest empire, led by Prime Minister Winston Churchill; the United States, the world's greatest financial power, led by President Franklin D. Roosevelt; and the Soviet Union, which had the world's largest army, commanded by Joseph Stalin. 4 days after Japan bombs Pearl Harbor, Hitler declares war against the US. Germany had no agreement with Japan, but Hitler likes the fact that he is now the center of World War II, the biggest war the world has ever seen. In late 1942, German forces failed to seize the Suez Canal, leading to the loss of German control over North Africa. The German army also suffered defeats at the Battle of Stalingrad, 1942–1943. On June 6, 1944, on what would come to be known as D-Day, the Western Allied armies landed in northern France. As a result of these significant setbacks, many German officers concluded that defeat was inevitable and that Hitler's continued rule would result in the destruction of the country. As Germany's military situation deteriorated, opposition to Hitler grew among the army elite. Many of his previously loyal commanders wanted him dead. Hitler was increasingly paranoid, and frequently modified his schedule at the last moment. But on the 20th of July an opportunity came at last. Hitler was meeting with top military aides at the Wolf's Lair field headquarters. A senior army officer, Lieutenant Colonel Klaus von Stauffenberg, left a bomb in a briefcase in the conference room. At 12:42 p.m. it went off. A stenographer and 3 officers died. Hitler was lucky to escape with only minor injuries, shielded from the full force of the blast by an oak table. Hitler decides that since Germany has lost the war, the country does not deserve to survive. He orders the destruction of the railroads, highways, and other important features of German industry, but the order is not obeyed. There is no evidence that the relationship between Hitler and Eva Braun was other than a normal one, except that the pleasures that she provided him were those of domesticity and relaxation rather than eroticism. She was an accomplished swimmer and skier. Hitler never allowed her to be seen in public with him or to accompany him to Berlin, and she had no influence on his political life. In April 1945 she joined Hitler in Berlin, against his orders, determined to stay with him until the end. In recognition of her loyalty he decided to marry her, and the civil ceremony was carried out in the Chancellery bunker on April 29. The next day Eva Hitler ended her life by taking poison. Adolf Hitler, either poisoned or shot himself at her side. Their bodies were burned. Their bodies were carried to a bomb crater near the Reich Chancellery, where their remains were doused with gasoline and burned. Hitler was 56 years old at the time of his death. Berlin fell to Soviet troops on May 2, 1945. 5 days later, on May 7, 1945, Germany surrendered unconditionally to the Allies. A 2018 analysis of the exhumed remains of Hitler's teeth and skull, secretly preserved for decades by Russian intelligence agencies, have confirmed that the Führer was killed by means of cyanide and a gunshot wound.